everyone, and welcome to episode 9 of the Offsite podcast, where we chat all things construction and technology. My name's Carlos, and I spend most of my days talking to construction teams about how they deliver projects.
And I'm Jason, and I help build software that construction teams use to deliver their projects.
So today we're going to be chatting about NEOM and a world record concrete pour. So first up, NEOM. I guess to sort of summarize NEOM, for those of you who have been living in a bubble for the last year or two and not been reading the news, NEOM is a region of Saudi Arabia. It's kind of up in the northern region towards Jordan, opposite Sinai, which is the Asian sort of side of Egypt. So Sharm el-Sheikh, a resort most people know. If you look across the sea, you'd be looking at NEOM. Now, Saudi Arabia have something called the Saudi Vision 2030. They basically want to reduce dependence on oil, diversify, and think of like a Dubai type project. They need to have a tourism business. And they've got 500 billion to play with. So huge amount of money being invested into this one region. The NEOM sort of scheme itself is split up into sort of 5 major parts, which we'll sort of cover a bit later on in the chat. But the main ones being the line. So that's a 170 kilometer long, 500 meter tall, 200 meter wide structure. It will house something like 9 million people. It's a fully controlled ecosystem. And yeah, a mega project. The whole thing is mirrored. So the theory is if you're in the desert, you're looking at this, what is basically a massive wall. You don't really see it, so it doesn't obstruct the view. But yeah, if you've seen pictures online, it is nuts. There's something called Trojna. This is a mountain resort, which is going to have skiing, lakes, sports, like a big sort of like Alps style resort that they've got towards what is the northeastern side of the line. We've got the Oxagon. This is a huge city that's built on the coast, sort of is being built over the sea. So imagine the Palm in Dubai, but way bigger, an entire city. There's Sindalah, which is a luxury islands destination. So building full sort of 5-star resorts out in the sea on their own independent islands. And there's an airport, because obviously this region of Saudi Arabia isn't the most visited at the moment. So they're going to need to get all of these tourists in. Jason, you're smiling. You were a skeptic at first. Does it feel real now?
I don't know. It's hard to... Yeah, I was definitely one of the biggest skeptics. Like when I first saw the website, whatever many year or 2 years or whatever ago, I thought someone was pulling a prank, or it was like an Onion news story or something, like ski fields in the desert, and we're going to build a line hundreds of kilometers long, and oh, by the way, it's going to be 50 meters wide and 200 meters tall. Oh, and by the way, it's made of glass. I thought the whole thing was a prank, but it's kind of hard if you're looking at the contracts being awarded right now to still have that view. I think I read that the plan is to, between 2021 and 2025, award $570 million worth of contracts for the project. Billion, that's with a B. Billion, yeah. 570 billion. Yeah. And judging by the contracts being awarded like in the last 6 to 12 months, they're doing that. You know, it takes a lot to get up to 570 billion, but the contracts are being let thick and fast to contractors around the world. Like, if you try and put the size of that project into context, there's almost no one can really conceptualize that size of project, because no one's really worked on. Like, you can't comprehend it, Carlos.
The line, 500 meter tall. The shard is 330. So that's how big the wall is, right? That's absolutely insane. Yeah, you can't imagine the scope of it. I got a friend that visited a few weeks ago, works for one of the organizations over there. And he just showed one section of where they're piling. So they're building this wall in lots of sections, as you can imagine. And the scale of it is
Trump's
just...
method.
Yeah. Yeah. A little bit bigger than that one.
It's a fence. It's a fence.
Yeah. You say you said it's made out of glass. Surely that the best place to manufacture a load of glasses in the desert, right?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
it's not that easy.
But Carlos, if you think about like, to try and put this in context, if you think about global infrastructure spend, it's something like 1.2 billion US a year, right?
Trillion.
So if this trillion, if you take this project alone, take the forecast contract value being let over 5 years, it's literally consuming like 10% of the expenditure, or adding about 10%
of billion a year
of global infrastructure on a single project in the middle of nowhere in the desert.
Just imagine the logistics of pulling in the plant. But even before that, right? Like, if you think about what it's like currently in, like, I'm obviously in Australia. If you think about what it's like currently in Sydney or Melbourne to try and hire an engineer, and people are fighting over engineers and planners, try getting 10% of the world's infrastructure spend and finding people to do that in the desert. Housing them.
Housing them. Where are they going to live? They it can't all work from home. Someone needs to actually have a look at this, the giant sand pit. It's really hard to comprehend. And if you think about the UK, and when these projects, large mega projects, they're normally in this like thinking design phase for 5-10 like years, right? I remember working on Crossrail. People would talk to me about how when they were a child, they remember the government passing the like Crossrail 1 bill or something to start action, and then like years later, when they're midway through their career, they're working on something that was an idea or like first approved decades before. Yeah, this is like going full bore, and it's hard to imagine how that happens.
Yeah, the thing that sort of jumped out to me initially, 500 billion is obviously a massive number. But if we're to pick, let's just pull out one of these contracts. So there's a 57 kilometer high speed rail between the line, which is the big wall, to Oxagon, which is the city. And that's just been won by WeBuild. And there was another organization as part of that JV. It's 57 kilometers long and it's 1.5 billion. If we compare that to high speed 2, that is a bargain of a high speed rail. So if you're spending 500 billion and 1.5 of it is high speed rail, it's not even like they're overinflating all these numbers and overspending to like cover the fact that they're shipping in 99% of their work.
Yeah, it's the benefit of building in greenfield, right? Like you're not going through the busiest city in the world and dodging bombs and graveyards and ancient burial sites.
Yeah, but still, like the material. Like I wonder what proportion of high speed 2 is to do with clearance and demolition. It's still not going to be half, and even then, we're spending 60 billion building it. If we divide it by 2, 1.5 billion is nothing, is it?
But this,
I guess maybe there's only one station at each end, and you haven't got like this massive stuff going on in between. But yeah.
But I think actually, like, if you step back, this is like a real genius move from the kingdom, because if you really look at it, over the last decade, governments around the world have been borrowing money at the zero interest rate environment to fund the construction of infrastructure. The amount of money spent in the UK and in Australia and countries around the world to build infrastructure, because they were borrowing money at what appeared to be brilliant interest rates. That's starting to turn, and it's turned, and all of these countries are starting to go, well, I don't know if we can afford all this money that we've borrowed, and these projects are getting pushed back. The UK's, as we know, they've stopped whole sections of high speed 2. The Australian government recently announced a review into all the projects that have been awarded, and expenditure on infrastructure is likely to just get cut back, right? Which will have a deflationary impact on all the materials. There should be more people available, and the kingdom, who don't have to borrow money because they've got the world's greatest money printing machine, can capitalize on do the opposite of what the rest of the world's doing, and just double down on this infrastructure investment in sort of a counter-cyclical way. I think it's like a brilliant play.
Yeah, arguably it's like the most cost-effective time to do it. But I mean, I'm going to say that's luck, unless they predicted that 10 years ago when they started this vision. It's like it worked out well, but yeah, it's
Yeah, but the difference between luck and vision is who's writing the book, right? Like you just
yeah. Maybe they had some sort of master plan to create this economic climate just to support their Saudi Vision Fund to build this at the perfect time.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's yeah.
So do you want to out of interest, just for the I'm interested, and I wonder if other people are. What are the top 5 contracts that have been awarded recently on the project?
Yeah, so the one
and for those looking for new jobs, who are the contractors?
Yeah. If you want massive salaries and no life, then head to NEOM. So we just mentioned the high-speed rail. That's 1.5 billion. We've got the construction of the new airport. That's 3 billion. That's been let to the Saudi Bin Laden Group. There is a 2 billion project given to a company called Larsen and Toubro. I think I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah, they're an Indian contractor, I think.
Yeah, they're like a huge conglomerate, but they have an engineering, procurement, and construction of what is effectively power generation and distribution to everything using hydrogen energy. So huge project there. That obviously supports their whole zero carbon eco side of what they believe the line and the city would be.
Do we know where that plant is relative to is it near the port?
I don't actually know where the site is. So let me just do a quick search. Actually. It looks like it's pretty close to the city on the coast. So yeah, it's not inland.
That would make sense.
Yeah, definitely. We've got $1.5 billion contract value given to the delivery partners of the line, which is SNC Lavalin, Jacobs and Parsons. So a lot of obviously who we see on LinkedIn and stuff have moved over as part of one of those organizations. And that's like general construction management services, planning, project management, construction, that sort of stuff.
What do you think happens to projects around the world when this 10% increase of demand happens? Yeah, does this push? Yeah, what happens?
From a staff point of view?
Yeah.
Well, there's quite a number of individuals that we've seen on major projects here that have gone. Speaking to a few of them, they know that they can go over for 2 years, work tax-free on a tripled salary, come back, pay off their mortgage, and you're kind of done. I think it would be quite a difficult life. Most of the contracts are 4 to 6 weeks on and then 10 days off. So you really are committing to losing a couple of years of your life in return for that cash.
But then the projects that are left behind, the ones that are already struggling to contain costs, are losing key staff that have got knowledge of the project, the history, and are probably the most experienced, the ones that are getting the offers first to go over there. That's got to be a fairly big brain drain, I guess, on these projects and contractors generally, where these people are getting pulled from. It'd be interesting to see how that plays out over the next little bit.
Yeah, can imagine the sort of the office vibe at the moment on some of these mega projects where you're getting budgets cut, you're losing team members who are going off to what will feel like the grass is greener and riches, and you're kind of stuck in a cabin somewhere on the M62 or whatever projects you're on. It'll be quite difficult
to the M62.
Yeah, I mentioned that because it's one of the projects that just got canned by National Highways.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be weird. I think it'll be really difficult to not focus and believe that you're on the right sort of thing, even though those who have gone over have gone, actually, it doesn't seem like it's all it's up to. It is a bit of a sentence. So, yeah. Would you be tempted as an engineer?
No. I think I'm past that point in my life. When you asked me when I was 20, I'd be there in a hot minute.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think it'd be super tempting at that age. Unless you had a girlfriend, then you're going to be dead for disappearing for 6 weeks at a time.
Okay, that's the clip.
Yeah. There we go. Okay, moving on. So, the world's biggest continuous pour of low carbon cement happened recently.
Sorry to
It's
be
a-
that person, because someone's going to do it in the, if there are comments. I don't know if there's comments, but did you mean concrete or did you mean cement, Carlos?
Oh, never ask QS a question like that.
I'm pretty sure you mean concrete.
I
Because
mean,
cement's the white powder, the grey
concrete, of
powder
course.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. It'd be weird to just pour cement, wouldn't it? Should I start that again?
You wouldn't build. No, that's cool. Someone's gonna there's always that person, and I'll be that person.
Everyone's gonna know that I said that now.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway,
Yeah.
Hog Chief Murphy joint venture, London Power tunnel job. It was 736,000 litres, and it was a 55-metre deep tunnel shaft, basically. So it was the base slab of that. So that obviously all sounds great. I'm sure we could talk about how you plan a continuous pour of concrete that big, but I wanted to focus on the carbon aspect, or the low carbon factor of the cement. So
I think before you dive in like that, I think the low carbon aspect is super interesting. But just for context, when this clip got sent around before we jumped on, it seemed odd to me that they were quoting concrete volumes in liters, because that's like no one ever does that. And then I started thinking, maybe they're just doing that to inflate the number for a bit. And then if you do the conversion, it's not very many. It's 736 cubic meters of concrete, which is actually a really small pour. It's tiny.
Yeah.
Like
what's that Hinkley pour? It was like.
So I think the largest ever is something like 30-something thousand cube of a continuous pour. But large mega projects regularly, like if you're doing a tunnel, like HS2 probably do this, but burying the pits where the TBMs end up, or if they're not retrieved, those pours are often 10 to 15,000 cube.
Yeah,
I think the Hinkley one was like 20, I think, or it was the SCS on HS2 did a 20,000 cube pour. At some point previously, so just for context, this is a tiny pour, but
it's like someone saying, "Oh, NEOM's 7,000 trillion pennies," just to make it. Cool. Thanks for that. So, small pour was completed, but the biggest ever low carbon cement pour. So I dug into this. Obviously, I'm an ex-QS. My knowledge on cement is subpar at best. So low carbon cement supposedly can be a 70 to 80% reduction in carbon. So big number. And apparently 8% of the world's CO2 emissions comes from Portland cement. So my simple brain went, cool, we can reduce 6% of global emissions by swapping all cement for low carbon cement, if you just take those sort of rough numbers. So why the hell isn't everyone using it all the time? So again, did a little bit of digging. There's the cost side of things. It's just not produced at scale. That makes a lot of sense. That will get cheaper as more people use it. The other part is the risk of concrete mix. Jason, I'll come back to you in a second. Obviously, there's going to be a strength and durability and everything else that comes with concrete mixes. That's where I'm least knowledgeable. But I did find out that part of it is the insurance market. They're not keen on mixes where there's no real sort of historical information on it. I'd imagine what the hell happens after 25 years or in certain climates and conditions, and how does it perform? So yeah, you're a concrete mix nerd. What's your thoughts?
That's on my LinkedIn profile, concrete mix nerd.
You should change it to that.
Yeah, I think this is like an area for potential massive impact in terms of like the sustainability of the industry. I think we spoke previously about how Laing O'Rourke announced that they were going to mandate all concrete on their projects from something like the 1st of April this year was going to be low carbon concrete. And that type of thing, that type of announcement, I presume, is specifically designed to push the industry, the concrete supply industry, to start making the change that then can drive the cost down. So yeah, if large contractors keep getting on that bandwagon. Like you said, the costs should come down. The other, I guess, risks, like of all the industries, the insurance industry is the one that's going to have the like, oh, this is risky view. But concrete does like a lot of important jobs, and so one of the things that the pretty much every structure that is a concrete structure is a reinforced concrete structure, and that's because not getting like totally into it, but concrete basically can't take any tension. So if you think about a slab, half of the slab or a part of the slab is going to be in compression and the other part's going to be in tension. It's rubbish at the tension part. And so they're like a composite structure of steel and concrete. And the steel bit is like super susceptible to corrosion over time. And so the concrete is not only taking the compression load, but it's like protecting the steel from corrosion and protecting it from the elements. So one of the things that concrete has to do is provide that protection over the long term, and the long-term performance of concrete in doing that would be directly correlated to the degradation of buildings and stuff, and concrete cancer, where whole floors are starting to fall to pieces. But that type of stuff can usually be tested for when you're testing the mixes. So there's like a test that you can do that I've had to do on previous projects. It's called like a chloride conductivity test. And you test the passing of, I think it's like a charge through the concrete. And so you're testing like how far a chloride ion could penetrate the concrete. And so how well it does at resisting that penetration. So I'd imagine, because Lang and Rourke know what they're doing, if that was a real show-stopping risk, they would have tested for it. And so, yeah, I think that in general, my gut feeling is that cost is the biggest barrier, and like quantity of supply. You know, around the world, especially when big infrastructure projects turn up in a city or a country, if you're trying to build a house now in any major city in Australia, your concrete pours, you're waiting weeks because the infrastructure project is sucking up all of the supply. If you switch from the most commonly available, GP cement to some specialty thing that doesn't have the supply, you just can't deliver your project. So I think it's a quantum of supply problem and probably a cost problem that are the two biggest hurdles to overcome. And I think everything else can probably get solved, is my wild speculation, if that's what we're after.
I love the wild speculation. The cost side of things, given the stats on how much CO2 is part of this process, surely, even if it costs, let's go for crazy numbers like double, surely that's the type of thing that the clients' organizations would be like, screw it, we'll do that. Because
I thought you were going to say something else. I thought you were going to say, surely it's the type of thing that the government should like price the carbon on, and then
that's what I'm saying. The client should be just paying for that because it's such a big difference that it's worth the money.
Well, I don't know. I think it's like it's big. It's bigger than the client, though, isn't it? Like say, even if your client is like a government body, like a roads division or something, or whatever, a railway, like Transport for London or whatever it is, they still have a budget that they've got approved for the project. They probably can't fork out. They probably just can't turn up with the difference. But it's big. It's like it's a bigger thing. It's a whole of economy thing, and the argument for like pricing. This is like going to like the argument for pricing carbon. Because it's like the tragedy of the commons. It's something that people can emit, consume, whatever that is that's not borne by them in the cost of the thing that they're producing or delivering. So I think if you had a real whole of asset cost that included the cost of carbon that someone had to actually pay for, then the math is totally different. But anyway, that's like a whole political argument that we're not going to get into.
Yeah, it makes more sense anyway than you hear a lot of projects hitting their carbon targets by buying credits. Then you hear about all these fake credit schemes where they're actually not delivering anything like they should be. It makes way more sense to do something that's actually part of the material of the building than some afterthought, effectively. So
yeah. The rainforest that's been sold 7 times over as the same carbon credits. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Right. Thank you, Jason. That's all we got time for today. So as always, thank you very much for listening.